Hello everyone and welcome to Healthy to Hog Wild Food. My name is Mike Crone and I am the one-armed at-home chef. Today I will be making pasta Genovese. This is actually a recipe that I learned on a trip to Italy in the town of Amalfi. A Genovese sauce is simply a meat sauce with a sweet onion base. I feel it's always important to heat your pot first before adding your oil. I feel like most people do it all at once, and that's simply not the way to go. Let's just give this a moment. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our carrots and our celery. We're just going to throw those in there. By the way, we're cooking this over a medium heat today. All we're doing here is we just want to soften the carrots and the celery. We don't want to brown these. It's very important not to brown these. We just want to soften them. This is only going to take a couple minutes. Actually, while I'm doing this, we could talk about healthytohogwildfood.com. Healthytohogwildfood.com is actually a food blog started by my wife and I. It's loaded with some amazing recipes just like this and many more. So check it out. There's actually a link on our YouTube channel homepage. So when you get some time, visit our site. Here, as I said, you just want to keep moving them around. You don't want anything to brown in the beginning of this recipe. It's very important. And as I said, this is only going to take a couple minutes. Okay. Everything feels like it's starting to get soft here. Now next, we're going to add a third of our onions. So all I'm going to do is take our pot here and basically dump about a third of our onions from our pot in there. And give this a good stir. And again, with these onions, we don't want to brown these onions. We just want to get them nice and soft. This is very important in the beginning of this recipe, not to brown anything. We're just forming the base and building flavor here. Like I say, just kind of keep moving this around. You just want to soften these onions. Okay, now our next step is we're going to add a quarter cup of our white wine. We are also going to add our tomato paste. Add that right in there. Now you're going to want to give this a good stir from here. You're going to want to get any bits off the bottom of the pan. You're going to want to turn your heat down here to a low heat. It's very important when cooking this to cook this on a low heat. If you cook it on too high of a heat, you're simply going to cook all your onion solids away and you're going to have nothing but a liquid base. Alright, and now from here, you want to evenly spread out. You want to evenly spread everything out to a nice base. And we're going to nest our meat on top of our onions. Okay, so as I was saying, we simply want to rest our meat on top of the onions here. Want to get everything nested in here really nicely. Okay, once everything is nested in here, then you're going to want to add your remaining onions over the top. Now, once you get your onions rested on top of your meat, next we're going to want to cover this up. We're going to want to cook these onions until they've lost their moisture and they're translucent. This is going to take about an hour. You're going to want to uncover this a few times over the next hour. Give it a good stir. It's very important though after you stir it to make sure that the meat is rested back on top of the onion. You don't want the meat touching the bottom of the pan in this cooking process. And also, as a reminder, make sure that you have your temperature on low and keep adjusting your temperature so that you're not over simmering your onions. Okay, let's check back in about an hour or so. Okay, let's check back in on our Genovese sauce. It's been about an hour. Oh, that's coming along really nicely. All right, we're going to give this a good stir. And again, we're making sure that our heat is low enough not to over simmer these onions. Okay, now after you give this a good stir, make sure that your meat is rested. Back on top of your onions again. Once you have that nested in there nicely, next we're going to want to take a hefty pinch of salt. Go ahead and give that a nice spread. Okay, and now from here we're going to want to recover the pot, but we're going to want to leave the lid cracked so that it's not sealed. And we're going to want to let this cook for about another hour to an hour and a half until the meat is soft when pressing down with a fork or a spoon. Okay, we'll check back in then. Thank you. Okay, our sauce has been cooking for about an hour and a half now. Let's take a look and see how it's going. Oh, this looks really nice. This is really coming along. This is just about what we wanted now. Just look at what a beautiful sauce this has built over this time. This dish does take a little while to cook, but I assure you it's worth the wait. And as you can see here, the meat is soft to the touch. So now we'll begin our next step. Okay, as I was saying, now that the meat is tender, it's time to begin our next step, which is simply removing the meat from the pan. Want to try and get off as much onion and sauce as you can. I'm just going to remove these chunks of meat. Just set them on a cutting board. All right, I think that'll do it. Okay, now we're going to allow these to cool for a moment. And as we do that, we're going to turn the heat back up to medium under our sauce. We're going to add in the remaining 3/4 cup of white wine, as well as our tomatoes. Now we're going to want to cook this until our tomatoes begin to burst. This is going to take about 15 minutes or so, roughly. Just keep an eye on it. Now, while that's cooking, I'm just going to come over here and I'm just going to break this meat down a little further before we add it back to our pot. Okay, that looks pretty good there. Next, we're just going to add this back to our pot. Okay, there we go.